Hello everyone, back to again with me. Today I will making video about PVR. Point few read it chapter novel. Today I will continue the novel The Truth About Woman, especially chapter in the Bridge. So yeah, I just wanna read it and maybe give view not about my perspective but what I highlight in this, but depend on the time I read it. So the title part 3 is in Bridge. Okay. Ooh. Of all the things human earth that breathe and that grow, a heart most breathe is woman. We must pay our store of gold hearted for that one day, to buy us some man's love, and lo, they bring a master of our flesh. There comes the sting of the world's shame and the jeopardy, for good or ill. What should that master be? Reject she cannot, and if she but stay, his sweet tie shame on all that woman days. So thrown amid new laws, new places, why this magic she must have to prophecy. Who never touch her that, how best to guide. Toward vistas thing that sleep at her side, and she who laboring long shall find some way, whereby her Lord may bear with her no fray, his yoke too fiercely blast in the breath. That woman draws, else let her pray for that. Her Lord, if he be wearied of her face, which endures, yet him for some merry places will ease his hurt, but she wait on her whole vision and canes on the single soul, and then forsook tis that face that cold of war, while we sit shoulder hid from all peril, for smoking sooner hold I stand, 3 times to face their battle should in the land, then bear our child. So it's part from a poem uh, from Euripides. So yeah, here we go. The story from the writer. If we turn now from Eastern civilization to ancient Greece, the picture there presented to us in many ways in the sharp contrast to anything we have yet examined. The Greeks founded Western civilization, but their rapid and advance in general culture was by no means accompanied by a corresponding improvement in the position of women. The fineness of their civilization and their exquisite achievement in so many directions makes it the more necessary to remember this. At the one time, their roots seems to have been in prehistoric Greece, a period of fully developed mother right, as is proved by numerous survival of the older system so frequently met with in Greek literature and history. Was at an early stage of civilization before the establishment of the particle system. There is a little doubt, however, that the influence of mother right remained as a tradition for long after the actual right had been lost by women. It will be remembered how great was the astonishment of the Greek traveler and the free position of the Egyptian woman in particular the apparent subjection of the husband to his wife. Now, such a surprise is in itself sufficient to prove a different conception of the relation of the sexes. The patriarchal view, whereby the woman is placed under the protection and authority of the man, was already clearly established in the Hellenic belief. Yet, in spite of this fact, the position of the woman was striking and peculiar, and in some direction remarkably free, and just offering many points of interest, not less important in their significance to us than what we have seen already in Egypt and in Babylon. In speaking of the Hellenic woman, the can select only a few facts to deal at all adequately with so large a subject in briefest outline indeed impossible. I should not even try to picture the married and family relationship which over in many and various ways a wide and fascinating study. All that I can do is to point to some of the conditions and suggest the conclusion which seems to arise from them. Glancing first at the women of the Homeric period, we find them represented as holding a position of entire dependence, without right or any direct control over property, under the rule of the father and afterward of the husband, and even in some cases humbly submissive to their sons. Telemachus just rebukes his mother, "Go to thy chamber, attend to thy work, turn the spinning wheel, weave the linen, see that the thy servant to their tasks which belong to man, and especially to me who am the master here." And Penelope allows herself to be silent and obey, bearing in mind and the sage discourse of her son. This is the fully developed patriarchal idea of the duties of the woman and her patient submission to the man. Now, if we look only at the outside of such a case as this, it would appear that the position of the Homeric woman was one of almost complete subjection, whereas as everyone knows, the facts are far indifferent. The protection of the woman was a condition made necessary in an unstable society of predominating military activity. Apart from this worship, women very clearly were not in subordinate position, and moreover never regret as a property. The very reverse in the case now, where in the whole range of literature are women held in deeper affection of receive greater honor. To take one instant, Andromache relate how her father's house has been destroyed with all who were in it. And then she said, "But now Hector, to are my father and gracious mother, to are my brother, nay, to are my valiant husband." It's easy to see in this speech how the early idea of relationship under mother right had been transferred to the husband as the protector of the woman, conditioned by father right. Again and again, we meet with the trace of the older custom of the mother age. The influence of woman persists as a matter of habit. Even the formal elevation of woman to position of authority is not uncommon, with an accompanying freedom in action, which is wholly at variance with the patriarchal ideal. Thus, it is common for the husband to consult his wife in all important concerns. 2. It was her special work to look after the affair of the house. "There is nothing," says Homer, "better and nobler than when husband and wife being of one. Men rule a household. Penelope and Clytemnestra are left in the charge of the realism of their husband during their absence in Troy. The beautiful Chloris ruled as a queen in Pylos. Arete, the beloved wife of Alcinous, played an important part as a peacemaker in the kingdom of her husband. It is to her Nausicaa brings Ulysses on his return, bidding him kneel to her mother if he would gain a welcome and succor from her father. We find the Homeric woman moving freely among men. They might go where they like and do what they liked. As a girl, they were educated with their brother and friends, attending together the classes of the bard and dancing with them in the public dancing places with every tone poses. Homer pictured the youth and the maidens praising the vines together. They mingle together at the marriage feast and at religious festival. Women took a part with men in offering the sacrifice to the gods. They also went alone to the temples to present their offering. Nor did marriage restrict their freedom. Helen appeared on the battlement of Troy, watching the conflict, accompanied only by her maiden. This freedom ensured to the Homeric woman that figure of body and beauty of the person, for which they are renowned. Health was the first condition of beauty. Health was the first condition of the beauty. The Greeks want strong men, therefore the mother must be strong, and this is as among all people who have understood the evolution of life more clearly than other, made necessary a high physical development of woman. Yet I think that an even more prominent reason was the needed by the woman herself for the protection of the female, which is made it her first duty to charm the man who destiny brought to be her companion. This is a point that must not be overlooked. To me, it's a very significant that in all the record of the Egyptian, showing so clearly the love and the honor in which woman was held, we find no insistence on, and indeed hardly a reference to physical beauty of woman. It is love itself that is exalted, a husband wishing to honor his lost wife. She was sweet as a palm tree in her love. He does not tell us if she were beautiful. I cannot follow this question further yet. It is clear that danger lurks for woman and her freedom. When to safeguard her independence, she has no other resource than the seduction of her beauty to gain and to hold the love is able to inspire. Sex became a defensive weapon and one she must use for self-protection. If she is to live, it seems clear to me that this economic use of sex, the real cancer at the very root of the sexual relationship. It is but a step further and perfectly logical one that leads to prostitution at a later period of Hellenic civilization. We find Aristotle warning the young man of Athens against the excess of conjugal tenderness and feminine tyranny, which is enchains a man to his wife. Can any surprise be felt? Does one not wonder rather at the blindness of man understanding that such a warning against women should have been spoken in Egypt is incredible. woman's position and liberty of action was in no way depend on her power or sex fascination, not even directly on her position as a mother. And this is really explain the happy working of their domestic relationship. Nature's supreme gift of the sexual differences among them were freed from economic necessities, and women as well as men was permitted to turn them to their true biological end, the mutual joy of each other and the services of the race. For this is what I want to make clear. It is men who suffer in quiet as a great a degree as women, wherever the female has to use her sexual gift to gain support and protection from the male. It is so plain. One thing makes the relationship of the sexes free, that both partners shall themselves be free, knowing no bondage that is outside the love passion itself. Then and the only can the woman and the man, the mother and father, really love in the freedom and together carry out love's choice and its high and holy duty. The condition that meet us when we come to examine the position of women in historic Greece are explained in the light of this valuation of the sexual relationship. We are faced at one by curious contrast on one hand. We find in Sparta under male social organization the women of Aeolian and Dorian race carry on and developing the Homeric tradition of freedom, while the Athenian women on the contrary are condemned to an almost oriental seclusion. How this condition arose mm, become clear when we remember that the prominent idea regulating all the legislation of the Greeks was to maintain the permanence and purity of the state. In Sparta, the first of these motivates rule, the condition in which the state was placed made it necessary for the Spartans to be a race of soldiers, and to ensure this is race of vigorous mother was essential. They had the wisdom to understand that their woman could only effectively discharge the function assigned to them by nature by the free development of their body and full cultivation of their mental faculties. Sappho was lofty and subtle genius, places her at the woman for whose achievement in poetry no apology on the ground of her sex ever needs to be made was of Ionian race. The Spartan woman was hunters and athletic and also a scholar, for her training was as much a care of the stage as that of her brother. Her education was deliberately planned to fit her to be mother of men. It was wait It was the sentiment of strict and jealous patriotism which is inspired the marriage regulation that are attributed to Lycurgus. The obligation of marriage was legal like military service. All celebrate were placed under the ban of society. The young men were attracted to love by the privilege of watching. It also set said citing in the gymnastic exercise of naked young girls who from their earliest youth. Next one. Enter into the contest with each other in wrestling and racing and the throwing, the quiet and javelin. The age of marriage was also fixed, special care being taken that the Spartan girls should not marry too soon. No sickly girls was permitted to marry in the supreme interest of the race love was regulated. The young couple were not allowed to meet except in secret until after a child was born. Brothers might share a wife in common, and wife lending was practiced. It was praiseworthy act for an old man to give his wife to strong man by whom she might have a child. The state claimed a right over all children born. Each child had to be examined soon after birth by committee appointed, and only if healthy was it allowed to live. Such a system is no doubt open to objection, yet no other could have served as well the purpose of raising and maintaining a race of efficient warriors. The Spartans held their supremacy in Greece through sheer force and bravery and obedience to law, and the woman mm, had equal share with the man in this high position. Necessarily, they were remarkable for purity of character and the beauty of their bodies for beauty reasons, ultimately on biological basis. I hope still high. Okay, next one. Women took an active interest in all that concerned the state and were allowed a freedom on action even in sexual conduct equal and in some directions greater than that of women. The law restricted women only in their function as a mother. Plato has criticized this is a marked defect on the Spartan system. Men were under strict regulation to the end of their days. They dined together on their fare determined by the state. No license was permitted to them. Almost their whole time was occupied in military service. No such as regulation were made for women. They might laugh as they like it. One result was that many wives are way better educated than their husband. We find to that a great portion of the land passes into the hand of women. Aristotle states they possess two-fifths of it. He deplores the Spartan system and affirms that in his day the women were incredible and luxurious. He accused them ruling their husband. What differences, he said, does it make whether the women rule of the rulers are ruled by women, for the result is the same. This generosity was noticed by others. You of Lacedaemon, said a strange lady to Gorgo, wife of Leonidas, are the only one in the world that rule the man. We, she answered, are only women who bring forth man, such as were the Spartan women. In Athens, the position of women stand out in the sharp contrast. Athens was the largest of the city-states of the Greece, and for its stability, it was ruled that no stranger might enter into the right of its citizen. Restriction of the most stringent nature, punishment, and most terrible were employed to keep the citizenship. Pure as usual, the restriction fell most heavily on women. It would seem that the sexual virtue of the Athenian woman was not trusted. It was natural to women to love. Doubtless, there were many traces of the early sexual freedom under the mother right. Women must be kept in guard to ensure that no surprises of spring should be brought into the state. This explained the Athenian marriage code with the unusual strict subordination of the woman to her father first and then to her husband. It explained also the unequal law of divorce. In early times, the father might shield his daughter and brother, his sister. This was abolished by Solon, except in the case of unchastity. There could, however, not be legitimate marriage without the assignment of the bride by her guardian. The father was even able to bequeath his unmarried daughter by will. The part assigned by the Athenian law to the wife in relation to her husband was very similar to that of married women under ancient Jewish law. Women were secluded from the all civic life and from all intellectual culture. There were no regular school for girls in Athens, and no care was taken by the state, as in Sparta, for the young girls' physical well-being. The one quality required from them was chastity, and to ensure these women were kept even from the light of the sun, confined in a special apartment in the upper part of the house. One husband, indeed, Ecolomachus recommended his wife to take active bodily exercise as an aid to her beauty, but she is to do this not in the fresh air, for what would not be suitable for an Athenian matron, but in the baking bread and looking after her linen. So strictly was the seclusion of the wife adhered to that she was never permitted to show herself when her husband received guests. It was even regarded as evidence of the non-existence of regular marriage if the wife had been in the habit of attending the feast given by the man whom she claimed as a husband. The deterioration of the ancient citizen woman followed as the inevitable result. Wait. It also impossible to avoid connecting the swift decline of the fine civilization of Anton with disease causes. Had the political power of her citizens been based on healthier social and domestic relationships, it might not have fallen down so rapidly into ruin. No civilization can maintain itself that neglected the development of the mother that gave it birth. As we should expect, we find little evidence of affection between the ancient husband and wife. The entire separation between their work and interested would necessarily preclude ideal love. Probably Sophocles presents the ordinary Greek view accurately when he caused one of his characters to regret the loss of a brother or sister much more than that of a wife. If a wife dies, you can get another, but if a brother or sister dies and the mother is dead, you can never get another. The one loses is easily reparable, the other is irreparable. We could have no truer indication than this as to the degradation into which woman had fallen in the sexual relationship. That one, indeed, it had been far otherwise with the Athenian woman. The ancient legend witness Athens was the city of Pallas Athene, the goddess of strength and of power, which in itself testifies to a time when women were held in honor. The temple of the goddess high on the Acropolis stood as a relic of metrical worship. Year by year, the secluded women of Athens who arose for Athens, yet so complete had become their subjection and their withdrawal from the duties of citizen that when in the theater of Dionysius main actor personated the great traditional woman of the Greek heroic age, no woman was permitted to be present. What wonder then that the Athenian women rebel against the state of their womanhood. That they did rebel, we may be certain on the strength of the satirical statement of Aristophanes, and even more the pathos of the word put here and there into the mouth of woman by Euripides. Quote poem: of all things upon earth that breathe and grow, a heart must braces is woman. We must pay our store of gold, hoarded for that one day, to buy us some man's love, and lo, they bring a master of our place. There comes the sting of the whole shame. The debased position of the Antonicism woman become abundantly clear when we find that ideal love and free relationship between the sexes were possible only with the heteria limitation of space forbade my giving any adequate detail of this stranger woman who were the beloved companion of the Antonian man, prohibited from legal marriage by law. These women were in all other respects free. Their relationship with men, either temporary or permanent, were openly entered into and treated with respect. For the Greek, the heteria was is no sense a prostitute. The name meant friend and companion. The woman to whom the name was applied held on honorable and independent position, on indeed of much truer honor than that of the wife. This aspect may well give us pause. It was not the women who were the legal wives safeguard to ensure their chastity, restricted to their physical function of procreation, but the heteria, says Donaldson, who exhibited what was best and noblest in woman nature. Xenophane's ideal wife has a good housekeeper like her of the Thucydides in the famous funeral oration, which he put in the mouth of Freckles, exhort the wives of the slain warrior whose memory is being commemorated to shape their life in accordance with their nature, and then adds with unconscious irony, great is the glory of that woman who is the least talked by man, either in the way of praise or blame, such as were the barren honor granted to the legal wife. The heteria were the only educated woman. In Athens, it was only the free companion who was a fit help made for Pericles or capable of sustaining a conversation with Socrates. We know that Socrates visited Theodota and the brilliant Diotima of Mantinea, of whom he speaks as his teacher in love. Targalia, a Milesian stranger, gained a position of high political importance when Alcibiades had to flee for his life. It was companion who went with him, and being a present at his end performed the funeral rites over him. Praxiteles carved a statue of Pyrenean in gold, and the work stood in the place of honor in temple of Apollo at Delphi. Apelles painted a portrait of Lace, and for his skill as an artist, Alexander rewarded him with the gift of his favorite concubine. Pindar wrote odes to the Heteria Leontinum, one of the order, sat at the feet of Epicurus to imbibe his philosophy. Among all these, a brave woman, Aspasia of Miletus, stands forward as the most brilliant, the most remarkable. There is no doubt as to the intellectual distinction of the beloved companion of priceless. Her house became the resort of all the great men of ancient. Socrates, Phidias, and Anaxagoras were a frequent visitor, and probably also Sophocles and Euripides, Plato, Xenophon, and Aeschines have all testified to the cultivated mind and influence of Aspasia. Aeschines in his dialogue Antilope Aspasia puts into the mouth of the distinguished woman an incisive criticism of the mode of the life traditional for her sex. The high status of the Heterae is a proof conclusively from the fact that the men who visited Aspasia brought their wives with them to her assemblies that they might learn from her. This is breaking through the acceptive convenience is the more significant if we consider the circumstances. Her indeed is your contrast, the free companion, expounding the dignity of womanhood to impressionate mothers. Aspasia point out to the citizen woman what that is not sufficient for a wife to be merely a mother and a good housekeeper. She argued them to cultivate their mind so that they may be equal in mental dignity with the man who loves them. Aspasia may choose be regarded as Havelock Ellis such as a pioneer in the assertion of woman rights. She showed that the spirit of revolt and aspiration which tend to mark the intellectual and artistic activity of those who are unclassed or dubiously classed in the social hierarchy. It is even probable that the movement to raise the status of the Antesian woman, which seems to have taken place in the 4th century BC, was led by Aspasia and perhaps other member of the Heteria. Eva Bruns, whom Havelock Ellis coach, believed that the most certain information we possess concerning Aspasia bears a strong resemblance to the picture which Euripides and Aristophanes present to us the leader of the woman movement. It was this movement of awakening which is throw light on the justice which is Plato accorded to women. He may well have had Aspasia in his touch. Contact with her cultivated mind might have brought him to see that the gifts of nature are equally diffuse in the both sexes, and therefore all the pursuit of man are the pursuit of woman also, and in all this woman is only a weaker man. Plato did not believe that women were equally gifted with the men, only that all their power were in their nature the same and demand a similar expression. He insists much more on woman duties and responsibilities than on her right, more on what the state loses by her restriction within the home than on any laws entitled thereby to herself. Such as a fine understanding of the need of the stage for woman as the real ground for woman emancipation is the fruitful seeds in his often quoted passage. May it not have arisen in Plato's mind from contrast he showed between Aspasia and free compassion of the man and the restricted and ignorant wives. A vivid picture would shortly come to him of the force lost by his hostage of the mother of ancient, a force which should have been utilized for the well-being of the state. Sexual penalties for women are always found under a strict patriarchal regime. The white flower of chastity, when enforced upon one sex by the other sex, has its roots in the degradation of merit. Men find a way of escape, women bound in the coil stay and waste. There is no escaping from the truth. Wherever women are in subjection, is there that the idol or purity and chastity are set up of for worship. The fact that Greek poet and philosopher speak so often of an ideal relationship between the wife and the husband prove how greatly the failure of the accepted marriage was understood and depreciated by the nobles of the ancient. The bone of the patriarchal system must always tend to break down of civilization and at phones and men come to think and to understand the real needs and dependence of the sex upon each other. Aristotle says the merit beside the propagation of the human race has another aim, namely community of the entire life. He described marriage as a species of friendship, one moreover which is almost in accordance with nature, as a husband and wife mutually supply what is lacking in other. Her is the ideal marriage, the relationship between one woman and the one man that today we are striving to attain. To gain in the wife must become the free companion of her husband. It is Euripides who voices the short row of women. He also foreshadow their coming triumph, backstream the waves of the ever-running river. Life is changes, and the love of it air throat. And woman, yeah, woman should be terrible in story. The tales to messamate should be other than of your for the fear there is that cometh out of woman and glory. And the hard hating forces should encompass her to no more. That's all about garage, culture woman in the garage, and conclusion. One statement I give for that, even in the Greek or uh, and before, we know the woman always terrible, time by time, even not exactly story, and but even terrible imbalances with other women in the in different time can always access for Georges, always be access, and yeah, can equal with the man. So that's why, I believe even not right now, in the future, time by time, the woman always have the place for role in the family, role in the society, and maybe in the career also. That's why I believe maybe in the God plan, one of the women can be, mm, give uh, valuable in society with me. I believe and I hope that. I know it's not arrogant, but it's my hope and my prayer in the future. I can be a woman as children and as a parent, as the wife, as the employee, as the serf, as just people life in the society, can give insight positive to other people, even observe or preview in the negative thing. I believe in the end there is will give positive thing to get other people value, because as long I live is not just be trace or waste of society, but yeah, even a little thing that is still same have be benefit to other. So that's why, and that's all, and thank you.